Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, what do children's issue advocates want to see from lawmakers this year? We'll ask the same question to environmental protection and conservation leaders. And a new poll shows that for most Arizonans, education is issue one. That's next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. This week we've been asking leaders and advocates of a variety of issues about their hopes and concerns for the upcoming legislative session. Here now to discuss children's issues is Dana Wolf-Neimark, President and CEO of Children's Action Alliance. Good to see you again.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Let's get it started with, there's so much to talk about and so little time, but I know that kids care is an interesting concept because I thought that was gone.
Well, Kids Care has been frozen. It's not gone. There are actually still children enrolled in Kids Care, but very few. We've had a temporary freeze, which started during the Great Recession when we had budget cuts. And now we have an exciting opportunity to lift that freeze and bring back Kids Care.
Before we go further, what is Kids Care?
Kids Care is health coverage, affordable health coverage for kids and working families. So it's families who earn too much to qualify for Medicaid, but earn too little to afford private health care coverage.
So I thought the idea, though, after it was frozen, I guess it didn't end in 2014,
Right.
but it, for all intents and purposes, was on its way to ending, that expanded access would cover some of these kids and these families.
That's true, and that was due to the Affordable Care Act. And so some of those children who lost Kids Care moved into Medicaid, which is great. It's stable, it's affordable, it's very good coverage. But a good chunk of kids, about 14,000, lost everything. Now they have the chance to apply for the Marketplace, but that is very expensive for low-income families. And in fact, the cost sharing, so premiums, deductibles, co-pays, can be twice as much as Kids Care, up to 8 times as much for kids with special needs. It's really unaffordable for many families.
So back comes Kids Care, or so you hope, at the
Yes.
legislature this session. How so?
Well, Representative Regina Cobb from Kingman is sponsoring a bill to lift that temporary freeze. And the great thing is, this is so exciting, it can be done at no cost to our state budget. And that is because Congress funded the National Children's Health Insurance Program for 2 years and gave Arizona 100% funding. We're one of 9 states with 100% federal funding, and that includes administrative funding as well as the coverage.
Now that coverage, that 100% return, is that for the next 2 years?
It's for 2 years, up till September 2017. And then Congress will have to look at it again, and I believe they will refund it, but we don't know for sure what the rates will be.
I can already hear critics of the legislature saying, what happens when if Congress says no and they pull the rug from under us?
Right, and that's a good question. And nothing in life is guaranteed, as we know, and looking out 2 years can be an eternity. But the fact is there will be some refunding, and we have an escape valve already in our state law. It's been there since the beginning that says if federal funding doesn't come through, we shut off enrollment. We've done it before. We know how to do it. We know it works. It saves the money. It takes the kids off. So we fully expect that would happen if the federal money went away.
Do you fully expect this to pass? Because I can already think of some folks down at the Capitol that aren't going to be too pleased with this.
We're really excited about the opportunity, and frankly, it fits right in with Governor Ducey's high priorities for all of us, for opportunity for all kids, no matter what zip code they live in. That is what Kids Care is about. We still have 160,000 children without health care coverage. We rank 49th in the country. We can change that. We can do better, again, at no cost to the budget. We're very hopeful. We think this will get very broad support. We know it has broad support in the community. We believe it will have broad support in the legislature, and it has in the past. Remember, it started under Republican Governor Jane Hull, and it's had bipartisan support.
All right, real quickly, a couple other issues. Department of Child Safety, can that department do better, and if so, how?
Yes, they can do better, and what we need is our legislature, as frustrating as it is, as depressing as it is, to stay focused, to stay committed. We can't let up. They need to keep pushing the agency, as they have, to spend more time and money on in-home services, to keep children safe at home and not in foster care. The legislature has really been leading in that direction. We need the agency to catch up with that priority.
I think the agency is requesting a 21% increase, somewhere along the lines of 65, somewhere along those lines, 70 million.
Yes.
Is it wise to get that money there without further reform?
I think the money will come with very specific direction from the legislature, because I think the legislature realizes that it's difficult when foster care is growing. That's where the money goes. But if we need to turn that around, and we do, we have to purposely invest in some other areas.
Before you go, you've mentioned this before, you look at income tax cuts as a children's issue.
Yes, we do.
How so?
Well, I know you're going to be talking more about education, and you do often on this program. It's very much linked to education. So what we ask all your viewers is, when you hear about a tax cut proposal, ask all of our leaders, what is that going to mean for long-term education funding? We have a sales tax scheduled to expire that is dedicated to education. If the land trust deal passes, that will expire in 10 years. We need long-term funding for public education that has so broad support in our state. We cannot sustain public education if we continue to cut taxes.
The governor has education reforms in mind. We haven't had anything too tangible yet. We might see something Monday. I don't know. Do you wait for the reforms before you start messing around with chicken or egg?
Well, this has been going on since I moved to Arizona in 1986, the same question. You have to do them both at the same time. Look, funding is fuel. It's needed. It's not sufficient. It's needed for education to be successful, and we need reforms. We've had many, many reforms, a lot of accountability measures over the years, and yet we've let the funding dwindle. We've raised expectations. We've lowered resources. That's a mismatch. We can't continue.
Last question before you go. We started with the idea that a Republican was going to introduce legislation to restore kids' care. Are you seeing more of a push, more of a general agreement among lawmakers that these kinds of services are needed, or is it just pretty much status quo?
I think it's a mix. I think Arizonans feel very strongly about supporting our next generation, and that children's health, education, and security is a vital priority. Sometimes other things get in the way down at the Capitol, as you know. So our job is to keep children front and center, and we will be there to do that.
All right, sounds good. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
Environmentalists and conservationists have taken a defensive posture at the state capitol in recent years. Will that mindset again be at play when the legislature convenes next week? For the answers, we welcome Sandy Barr, director of the Grand Canyon chapter of the Sierra Club, and Pedro Lopez, program director for Chispa Arizona, an organization working to organize Latinos on environmental issues. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
So what do you want to see from lawmakers this session?
Well, a short session and do no harm, but I mean, I'm only half joking about that. I mean, seriously, we need to move away from these destructive policies that they've been proposing in recent years. Really like to see them do some things that are good for environmental protection, which ultimately is good for our economy, including to help promote rooftop solar, promote energy efficiency, really address water issues in a comprehensive manner and bringing in environmental voices, not just the usual suspects that want to either grow more alfalfa in the desert or grow more rooftops on those alfalfa fields. So really looking at environmental protection as a key component of our future and our economic future, as well as important for our children.
From your perspective, what do you want to see?
Well, last year, Ted, we saw the legislature pass a bill to allow the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality take lead conversations on the Clean Power Plan. And this year, we're tasked with drafting a plan that is going to set us on a good path to meet the requirements from the EPA. So what we hope for is to see the legislatures put some pressure on the department to ensure that we develop a good plan for the state.
Sandy mentioned the economic potential of good stewardship. Is that something? Is that an avenue to get the attention of lawmakers?
Definitely, I agree with Sandy on that topic.
And again, you got to show that there are tangible results to conservation, correct?
The numbers are in. I mean, we have the research. Conservation of land, and it's critical to our tourist economy. The people of Arizona repeatedly say they support protection of land, clean air. I mean, seriously, having poor air quality costs us. It costs businesses. It costs every one of us. Kids with asthma ending up hospitalized, missing school, missing work days. Protecting the environment pencils out very well, and it is critical. And people, if you want people to, and you want a diverse economy, they're going to want those amenities: clean air, clean water, and protected lands.
And yet, there seems to be movement to remove Clean Water Act provisions. CO2 from existing power plants, that's an issue as well. How do you frame those issues?
Well, I mean, right now our communities and Arizonans have been clear that they are demanding that our legislature and our government takes responsibility to clean up the air we breathe, to take responsibility to care for their voters, for their community. And so we hope for that. Voters are going to be vocal, this year. They're going to be also at the Capitol lobbying their lawmakers to ensure that they do reflect those values that they hope for.
Your group represents Latino voters, Latino Arizonans. How do you get those voices out there? How do you get those voices heard?
Well, with Chispa Arizona, we talk to Latino families, to voters, day-to-day basis, either door-to-door, over the phone, and we inform and we educate of what the issue is and what can they do to make sure that our government is doing what they're supposed to be doing for us. So this year we're going to see a big increment of Latino voters at the state legislature lobbying their lawmakers to ensure that they do and in fact do what we want them to do.
Another issue that always seems to come up at the legislature is sovereignty over federal lands, over the water, over the air, that we control it, not the feds. They always kind of get a little bit of traction, but they never seem to get too far. Are you expecting more of the same this year?
Yes, there's this document called the U.S. Constitution that keeps getting in their way, and I am seriously, the sovereignty bill that they have introduced talks about the U.S. Constitution being the law of the land, and in the next sentence they violate it. I mean, they propose violating the U.S. Constitution, saying that they're not going to abide by, enforce, spend any public resources on complying with U.S. Supreme Court decisions unless the Congress affirms those decisions. And I think that they need to familiarize themselves with the Constitution that is hanging on the walls in the legislature. But this whole sovereignty thing, I mean, most people understand that we are part of the United States, that the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act are popular. They've done a lot of good in this country. If they thought they could attack them head on, they would, but they come at them this backdoor way, making it about fighting the federal government instead about what it really is, about cleaning up the air and the water.
And as far as you're concerned, when you talk to your constituents, people that follow your organization, the people that your organization represents, what are they telling you? What are they saying that's important to them? And do they understand what's going on at the Capitol? Because a lot of folks aren't even aware of what's happening down there.
Yeah, well, one of the main concerns is they are extremely concerned about the air quality that we have here in the state. The fact that there's a myth that Latino families do not care about the environment, or that Latino families are a single issue community is not true. And so they know that there is a process, and they know that ultimately we have to elect leaders who are going to reflect our values. And so we keep pushing our constituents to voting. That's the only way that we're really going to create changes, to get our families to go to the polls and not necessarily vote for a candidate, but vote for the issue that you care about the most.
Interesting. All right, some things that didn't quite make it last year. Are you expecting to see a return of the ban of salvaging native plants, the idea that nuclear power can be a renewable energy, the leaky underground storage, all this, extending that? I mean, the things that we saw last year that didn't quite make it, are you expecting to see those kinds of things return this year?
Well, I hope they learned their lesson on the ban on salvaging native plants, because there was a huge outcry by the public, and some fairly conservative lawmakers said, no way, I'm not voting for that. So I hope they learned their lesson on that one, but we'll see. I would expect to see the nuclear power one again. I can't imagine that it would actually pass, but I would expect to see it again. The problem with all of those types of bills is, while we're fighting ridiculous measures, we're not making the kind of progress we should be making.
And that's my last question is, again, you're on the defensive again. Every year we ask you to come on, and it seems like you're fighting. Is there anything progressive in your mind that can be accomplished this year?
There is. I don't know if it will be, but there certainly is. And last year, even though there wasn't a big bill that we were promoting that went through, the bottom line is, after all was said and done and all the arguments, the legislature passed a bill to specifically authorize the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality to develop a plan under the Clean Power Plan, and specifically under the Clean Air Act. So that did come out of it after all of the ruckus around it. A bill got through. A plan is being developed. We have hopes that it'll be a good plan for Arizona.
Encourage something progressive could happen this session?
I think it would be extremely helpful to see something similar to what California is trying to accomplish. They call it the 50-50-50 bill, which is going to be a 50% reduction in petroleum, a 50% renewable energy, and a 50% increase on current buildings to be renewable energy friendly. And so, to us, I think that would be a good bill to start. Definitely, it's something that will be a challenge to pass, but at least it'll be a good pass.
Get it rolling, maybe a multi-year bill.
There you go.
They
I
are.
was going to say, if that passes, you're back on the show pronto. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ted.
The number one public policy issue for Arizonans is funding and improving education. That's according to a new poll commissioned by Expect More Arizona, a group pushing for education excellence. Here now to talk about the survey is Pearl Chang, Esau, Expect More Arizona's president and CEO. Good to see you.
Good to see you
Thanks
too.
so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
What exactly did this new poll look at?
The results of this poll were very encouraging. Statewide, about 600 respondents, likely voters, very representative of the voters who turn out to vote in Arizona. And the results showed that by far and away, very large margins, that the number one issue on the minds of Arizona voters is education.
And we should mention, I think, if education got 41%, immigration 12%,
Yes.
economy 10%.
Yes, and that marks a change. You know, we've been doing this poll every year for the last few years, and in the past, education's been number 2 or number 3, usually trailing immigration and jobs. But to see this, it's like education broke away this year.
Aspects
as
of
the
education.
Clear leader. Yep, and specifically, there's very strong support for career and technical education, which we certainly hope to see restored in this upcoming legislative session. There's strong support for teacher pay. Increasing teacher pay probably scores the highest across every political party. And another emerging trend we see is really strong support for the idea that increasing graduation from our community colleges and our universities would help strengthen Arizona's economy.
Yeah, I saw that 85% thought that college graduates, regardless of where, would help the economy.
Yes.
With all this, by the way, Prop 123, obviously a big factor on the education landscape. Poll results on that one.
Poll results continue to be very strong. Our poll confirmed that about 2/3 of voters support Proposition 123. We are very much supportive of Proposition 123. We need to work together to see that passed. Although the poll results are strong, it's going to take some work. It is $3.5 billion for schools over the next 10 years. But, you know, strong bipartisan support. And we also know that a long-term, sustainable, dependable plan is needed. You know, this is a 10-year plan, which is great. But we also have Proposition 301 on the horizon, which is a $600 million amount. So, you know, that's something voters, we do need to start talking about updating and renewing that in the next couple of years here and take some steps to put a long-term plan in place.
Yeah, we should mention that the Prop 301 would be a renewal, and your poll, 56% say yes, not overwhelmingly, but that's still a majority.
Yes, we asked them where ideally the funding for education would come from. Voters very strongly supported more funding for education. In fact, that was the number one thing they said, more funding and then teacher pay. On more funding, when we asked them where it should come from, the first thing they said was actually the surplus dollars. The second thing they said was Proposition 301, which was nearly the same return as Proposition 123.
Yeah, and then exactly 123 I think was 53%, but
Right.
but still support
Solid
for
support.
Yeah, support
Solid
for
support.
123 was at 66%.
Yes.
On its own.
On
So,
its own.
the idea of serving low-income kids, I saw that 81% thought that was a good idea. That's interesting because it suggests maybe a disconnect from maybe what some policymakers are considering.
It is a very interesting result, but generally what we saw in the poll is that people believe that struggling students, that low-income students should receive additional funding. There's a process going on with the Governor's Classrooms First Council right now that is working to reform the funding formula. They're working to simplify it and hopefully create a more equitable funding formula that will promote excellent outcomes. One of the things they're looking at is a weight of some sort for students from low-income backgrounds, and we do see that in other states. There are states who do this because we know that low-income students are more expensive to educate. They typically come to school behind.
Yeah, indeed. And I notice as well, majority of folks think they do have a role in improving education. Talk to us about that.
Well, we love to see that. I mean, that's what we do at Expect More Arizona is we try to get people to roll up their sleeves and realize that they've got a responsibility. It impacts everyone. And an overwhelming majority believe they do have a role to play. And the number one thing that they said they'd be willing to do is to vote, to support people, programs, and policies that are going to be good for education.
And that's encouraging, nice to hear. And yet, will we see these folks at the polls?
You know, this is a poll of likely voters. I think the thing is that this is the tip of the iceberg. We're seeing a culture change that's beginning to happen. Again, we've been doing this poll every year for 5 years. The strength of the results here and support for education and support for the willingness to do something is really pulling out ahead. And I think part of it is that there's been a recession. People have really seen the impact of the budget cuts to schools. They're starting to see the impact on the workforce pipeline, attracting companies to our state. But the economy is now improving, so that's great news. And I think people are in the mindset now of being ready to say, okay, we got to invest. We got to invest in education because that's going to be our #1 priority if we want a strong economy.
Real quickly, last question. That's what people are saying. Impact, though, on the legislature. What are lawmakers going to say?
I think we have stronger consensus this year than we have in recent years past around the need for education funding. I think there's been an acknowledgement that Arizona's, at least our K-12 schools, are underfunded. We see that in the support around Proposition 123. We need to make sure that funding for our JTEDs, our career and technical education, is restored. And we've absolutely got to get Proposition 123 passed after that.
All right, Pearl, good to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.